Good morning, and welcome back to Vegas October 1 Sounds. Today I've got a request. Some time ago, a commenter asked me to investigate the food truck on the east side of the venue. And the investigation is occurring because inside here, one of the owners or operators of the food truck recorded some sounds during the volleys. And while the sound quality is quite terrible because inside of the food truck is a very reflective surface, so everything is dominated by the echoes, you can hear what sounds like bullets hitting the truck. Now, since this food truck is behind the VIP seating on that side, and theoretically the shooter's to the west of that, the question becomes, how can the bullets overcome that obstacle and still hit the food truck? And I told the commenter I was going to be doing a computational physics modeling of the projectiles down to, including air resistance, gravity, bullet load, and all that sort of stuff. So in preparing for that simulation, that modeling, I had to come up with the model for what was happening there at the food truck, and I want people to look at this model and see whether or not I'm out to lunch or whether or not it's fairly accurate. So let's present the model first, and then I'll go and tell you how I derived this model. So basically, on the east side of the venue, we have these VIP boxes here, which are two-story. And on the top of the roof of each story, there's additional little fencing up here. Let's just draw a couple in. So, there will be additional height on top of them like this, but they're not solid. Alright, so then to the right of it is that the perimeter wall. So what I did was I took a look at let's go down and take a look now. If you take a look at this footage, which shows an overhead view from a helicopter on the day after, October 2nd, you get a better idea of where this truck is. These are the food vendors. These are the VIP boxes, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here are 3 trucks back here, which I assume all of them are related to vending of some type. And then you have a perimeter wall over here. And I believe that this is the truck in question. And I believe that because during the filming of from inside the truck, the person looks to the right and you can see out the back door, and there's no obstacles, very few obstacles looking that way. And also when he looks out the front, straight across, you can see the gap between a wall, and that pretty much brings it down to this truck, because up here this south end is blocked on that truck, and in this case it has something in front of it, and it's much smaller. Alright, so this gives the perspective of where I think the truck is. If we take the distance as the crow flies from Google Maps from Mandalay Bay, and this includes the elevation of the 32nd floor, then we come up with a total distance of not quite 1,500 feet as a measurement. Here's an image of what those box seats look like, not at the venue, but just generally, they're as a product. And here we get a view of that's actually the south end, but that's okay. Here again, this one would be down over. The one we're interested in would be at the top up there on upper right hand side. Just gives a little bit better view from the other side. And then you take and start measuring with Google Earth up close. So from this perimeter to the back of the VIP boxes is 62 feet. Okay. The width of the stairs is about 10 or 11 feet. And this time I'm going to leave it on here so you can look at it. In fact, I'll go back to the other pictures here so you can look at them a little bit longer. Over there's from there's where I measured them, right? How wide are those units? And you see I measured it there to there. Come out to about 16 feet, which makes sense. You know, each box is 8 foot wide. And there's just a different measurement on the width of the stairs, which is 11 feet. And this is a picture from inside the truck as he looks out the front end, kind of north. And you can see underneath these stairs where you can see things in the distance. I'm not quite sure what they are, but they're obviously not part of this structure. Alright, so back up to the top. Alright, so we got the 62 feet from the wall to the back of the VIP. We've got 10 or 11 feet for the width of the stairs. We have 16 feet for the width of the VIP seating. Now, given that aspect ratio that I showed you earlier, then I went ahead and determined the height of these things. For the food truck, I wasn't quite so sure, so I set it at about 9 feet, maybe 9.5 feet from the ground to the top of the truck. And as you can see from the pictures, the gap from the front of the truck to the stairs was about equal to the gap from the back of the truck to the perimeter wall. So that's what I did with them. And so overall you get these numbers: 16 feet for the two boxes, 10 or 11 feet for the stairs, 22 feet for the gap between the food cart and the stairs, 8 feet for the width of the food truck, and then 22 feet gap between the back of the food truck and the perimeter wall. And roughly the height between the top of the food truck and the top of the floor of the top story of the VIP building was about 9.5 feet. So it's quite a drop. Now, given that, you can draw lines from the corner of the VIP seating at the top to the food truck, and for a bullet which is flying in a straight line from that point at the top right corner of the VIP seating to the top right corner of the food truck, you would have to have a 13-degree line. So immediately you see that if you can achieve that 13-degree line, then you've got no problem hitting at least a piece of the truck. If you were to up the line steepness by a degree, then you can see you're starting to hit a pretty good chunk of the top of the roof of the truck. Alright, so what is the actual angle between Mandalay Bay and these things? Well, if we take a look at if we take a view from this is a helicopter view, and we have the Mandalay Bay on the lower left hand side here, and we look at the X and Y distance, that is the distance across and up to the food cart. I measured with Google Earth that it was about 1,145 feet. What's that? Let's see, that's east of the Mandalay Bay, and 692 feet north. And when you calculate the distance based upon those, you come up with 1,338 feet to the food truck, which is a little bit shorter than the the other measurement, but not enough to bother me. At least way it's not on the first model. So, and since this is kind of to scale, you can see how small that food truck is. Maybe that dot should be twice as long. I don't know. Is relative to from coming from the Mandalay Bay. Now, if we take an elevation view of that same setup there and look at the angle, only we use numbers that I've used all along, which are, I estimate the floor of that 32nd floor to be 331 feet, and then round the distance up to the food truck of 1350 feet. Then all we need is a 13.5 degree angle to shoot straight from the Mandalay Bay over the top of the VIP and hit the food truck. Now you say, well, wait a minute, bullets don't travel in straight lines. No, they don't. Either left to right or up and down. But nevertheless, with a straight line, with a laser from that room, it would be entirely feasible to spot the laser onto the top of the food truck. So, any small deviations up or down, if small deviations going down in the aim would hit VIP buildings, very small deviations going up would probably hit the food cart or go over the food truck rather, and probably over the perimeter. I don't know. I didn't measure the perimeter wall height. I think it's taller. Probably hit the perimeter wall, or if not, over that and hit the street. So, the drop of the bullet for a 55 grain 223 round Remington with a muzzle velocity of a little over 3,000 feet per second is going to be about 4 feet from Mandalay Bay to the VIP sections, which is kind of irrelevant except that to determine that it's not a straight line and that the bullet is falling. Now, from this we see that it's not actually a straight, it's not actually like this. It's not, left, right. It's more of an angle of 30 degrees that the bullet takes between the VIP and the food truck. And so the distance there is not really 22 as the bullet flies. It's probably more like 35 or so. But in 35 feet, the bullet, even out at that distance, is still traveling close to Mach 2, and it's only going to drop maybe 4 inches or less between this and there, which actually is a benefit because then it's, much more likely to hit the food truck than not. So in this case, the bullet drop, as small as it is between the VIP and the food truck, is to the benefit of hitting the food truck. Now, I doubt that anybody was purposely aiming at the food truck, and those are just probably, happenstance shots. But it's entirely possible to hit it without doing any further computational physics model. I still will do that because I still need that model and those calculations for other purposes, and I'll include various loads and whatnot in there, and we'll see what the actual bullet trajectory is. But what I need now is confirmation from the viewers to tell me whether or not all these numbers look good and whether or not this model is good enough to go with. I've always had problems with Google Earth trying to get accurate numbers, and that's probably the biggest downfall in all my calculations, is I don't have accurate numbers for the locations of all these things, and any help there is going to be appreciated from you folks. Alright, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say about this. Nope. Oh, yeah, there's one other thing, I guess. Actually, there's a couple other things. If we... let's go back up here. If I'm wrong about which food truck rather, it is being recorded, Namely, if it's this first food one up here that's on the south end, then you got a whole host of range as the bullets come from left to right here that you could be hitting. It would even, I would guess, be possible to hit the front of the food truck in that case, given that there's a lot of options to go through the stairs and in between these buildings or just over the top of these buildings, which are lower than the VIP boxes. If it were this little bitty one here, I don't know how tall that is. Whether that roof is taller than that roof. It looks to be a smaller operation. But if anybody has any information on that, let me know. Alright, and then I guess I must have put it up top. Oh yeah. For those of you that want to see which chart I was using, it's this one. And you can see that from 500 to 550 yards out downrange, it goes from a 64-inch drop to an 88-inch drop. These are yards, so that's 150 feet. So you divide it, so the drop is 14, so you divide it by 3. Since we're only about 50 feet or less, and you get 5 inches, so I figured 3 to 4 inches drop between the two buildings is how I could use this table to calculate it. And actually, let's see, 400 times 3 is 1200. Yeah. The bullet's starting to drop off. I didn't notice this before, but that's just about the, well, actually, it's not quite Mach 2 as I said. It's, closer to Mach 1.3, since the speed of sound was 1158. That's getting pretty close down there. I didn't realize the Mach range ended, so by the time it hit the dirt on the other side of the venue, it's going to be Mach 1. Now that reinforces my understanding of why this lag plot gets small over here. Because as the bullet slows down, those supersonic cracks are no longer outstripping the muzzle. Alright, well anyway, let me put that up there, and I'll let it sit there for a minute so you can have a good long look at it, and we'll catch you in the next one.